these carvings depict a these carvings depict a group of men, four of them, two of them Nubian, two of them Asiatic. And as you can see, with the first two, their hair snakes around in the typical Asiatic way, while the guys in the back have typical Nubian hair. And why are they depicted like this? Well, you can also see that their faces look very similar. This is due to the fact that, there's a default face in ancient Egypt, and usually it was the Egyptian face, and they gave it to people. Just like how Europeans, have a default appearance, and when they start depicting Africans, in some cases it looks awkward because they don't depict Africans accurately. They sort of give them European faces and just darken the skin color. You see this as well in Japan when they first met the Europeans, in that they still give them the typical eyes because of the training of the Japanese is trained with a specific look, their native look, and then later they perfect how those people look like. So here's the question: why don't we just accept the idea that the ancient Egyptians had Afro-Asiatic people, meaning they had some Asiatic people and had some native African people, and that was about it. And then we move on with the civilization. Well, first of all, the experts that talk about this theory only impose it when you show them evidence that goes against the idea that the ancient Egyptians are Asiatic. It's not a true theory. They don't even put it out there as a real thing. And when they do, the reason they do it is to counter the dark skinned people that you see in Egypt as like, oh, there's a few of them. But I have played you multiple and multiple people who talk about these things, and you will see that often and always they almost never talk about a fusion. Rather, they talk about an isolated, independent, unique culture that has nothing to do with the rest of Africa. But again, you're going to get played if you believe that these guys believe that their civilization is mixed. That's why they say that the modern Egyptians today are more mixed than the ancient Egyptians. What does that mean that they're more mixed if the ancient Egyptian civilization was mixed back in the day? Ignoring the physical appearance of the ancient Egyptians, we have shown that the culture of the ancient Egyptians is similar to that of the Africans, as well as some people in North Africa, East Africa, Central Africa, South Africa, and that this continuous culture was then adopted in some parts of the Middle East. We have shown the cattle, we have shown the clothes, we have shown the drinking styles, the food, trade, all the stuff that shows that these people are similar, even down to games and stuff like that. They have a similar culture. So, what is it about their culture that is so different than the rest of Africa? What is it like? If you had to pick one thing that you could say this has nothing to do with the rest of Africa, what would it be? And in real life, it would be nothing. And lastly, let's talk about the Afro Asiatic languages. I remember that I used to watch some people's videos on YouTube who would deny that there's such a language as Afro Asiatic or a language group. And this was because they had no idea that the Afro Asiatic groups originated in Africa. And these people were biased towards Africans, so they assumed that Afro Asiatic must be some scholarly trick. But because I know how to do research, and obviously I've been taught in this, um, I looked up the Afro-Asiatic languages, and of course, when you look it up, they all stem from Africa. They all have roots in Africa, and even in Bantu languages and all these other languages in Africa, it is agreed upon that there's a lot of borrowing from the Afro-Asiatic languages from both modern and ancient times, meaning that the Afro-Asiatic languages are not a language isolate as well. Nothing is isolated from Egypt. So why is it that Egypt has these rare things that you don't find in other parts of Africa? It's because they don't. They don't have rare things that you don't find in other parts of Africa. Even the pyramids you find in other parts of Africa. The drums, the music. I don't know what you need to prove culturally that they are the same. But of course, when you prove culturally, this is why I left the cultural part to the last part. People then say, well, you could have the same culture and not be of the same race. But when we talk about race, you go, okay, you could be of the same race, but not of the same culture. Back and forth like that, they go over and over again. And I'd like to say thank you to Children of Raw for his $2 donation. I don't want him to go unnoticed.